and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have a gentleman here, a healer, psychic, from Austria, from the Alps originally in Austria. His name is Oswald Muhlmann, and he has been working with people in Austria and actually all over Europe for many years. He's been on German and Austrian TV, and as I reminded him now, his debut in New York is on A Better World TV. Well, Oswald has been doing, on a more serious note, very powerful work with a lot of people. He, as a youngster, literally going back to age 4, was in touch with some of his psychic and clairvoyant capacities and abilities. And he's continued to cultivate those over the course of time to this day, where he was invited to New York by Dr. Norman Suhu, my dear friend and naturopath and biosyntony practitioner, who here at Union Square brings certain select people to share with his students and his clients. So along that line, he asked me to sit down with Oswald and talk about his work. And we're going to be learning something about that work right now. He does come to New York periodically to give seminars and to work in healing with people on an energetic level, which of course manifests, as we all know, in the physical body. So, welcome.
Welcome.
I'll learn your language, you learn mine. Why not? Warum nicht?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I want to just say, and thank you, Elka, for doing the translating here. If you would give a little background as to, because you mentioned that this has been intergenerational, this has been going on in your family, where you've had healers and psychics for, I don't know, maybe 3 or so generations.
Mm-hmm. So,
just give a little bit of a background as to what you've experienced in this way in your own family.
Genau, könnt ihr darüber reden, was in deiner eigenen Familie so los ist, also wie das Generationen zurückgeht und
Ja,
zurückgeht.
mein Vater hat erzählt, dass es eine weibliche Person gegeben habe Ende des 17. Jahrhunderts, wo solche Wahrnehmungen gemacht hat. Und das hat sich weiter verbreitet. Der Vater konnte Wahrnehmungen machen, meine Mama und meine Schwester und von denen auch noch 2 Kinder.
Verstehe. I'm kidding. I don't understand a word.
So first of all, thank you so much for having us.
Of course.
Really appreciate that. Also is saying that they can trace and they have knowledge that within their family there was already somebody in the late 1700s that actually was clairvoyant and also healed already in the Austrian Alps. And that this ability was passed down through his lineage to both his parents, his sister, the sister's kids, and also to him as well.
That's so interesting. So we talk about genetics and DNA, but most people aren't aware of what's called epigenetics,
Right.
which is that the DNA code is a two-way street. In other words, on one hand, we're imprinted with the genetic field and codes of our parents, but our lives are also imprinting the DNA as well. Our lifestyle choices, our programming, our conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put it that there was a field in the family that was interactive and building the chi.
Right,
life
right.
force
Certainly,
around that intelligence.
certainly a mixture of nature and nurture. I want to say,
right.
because
That's right.
Oswald did talk about, growing up in a very high altitudes.
Yes.
And there was no light pollution, sound pollution.
There's no air.
No air, very little air, very little air too, indeed. Exactly. You really, in a way,
Straight from the cosmos.
pretty much, you really have to literally build yourself up. You have to build up the energy within you to be able to stand up, literally, to those mountains. And I'm sure that also strengthened that ability. Sure, it was in his DNA, but also there were many triggers in his life that really said, pointed to really strengthening those abilities that he already had.
Absolutely. So what we're saying is that there is an environmental effect, and in specific, the energy of nature, of natural surroundings, whether they are trees and bushes and little creatures and the breathing and the exchange, ecosystem exchange of higher quality of oxygen, and not only that, more oxygen per cubic liter, quite honestly. And then add the mountains, and before you know it, there are psychics everywhere.
Pretty much. Watch out when you come to Austria. Yes.
Yeah, right.
No.
So, this is fascinating, and thank you for coming to New York. Dankeschön.
You are welcome.
And so, talk about, if you would, first, a few of the healings that he has conducted in, his life as your life as a healer.
Ja. Kannst du ein paar Beispiele geben über die Heilungen, die du schon vollbracht hast?
Ja, es war ganz interessant. Es kam eine ältere Dame zu mir, die Probleme in den Beinen hatte. Und das linke Bein war doppelt so dick wie das rechte Bein. Und sie erklärte mir, dass keine Tabletten helfen würden, dass die Schmerzen nicht weggehen würden. Es würde einfach nichts helfen. Ich schaute sie an und sagte, bei dir ist Heilung nicht möglich. Dann fragt sie,
This does not sound good.
Yeah, no.
warum?
I don't know what he's saying, but it does not sound good.
Yes, indeed.
Please go on.
Ja, mal bitte.
Ja. Und dann sagte ich zu ihr, weil du deine Blockade, weil du dein linkes Bein beschimpfst. Und dann hatte ich ihr erklärt, dass habe ich ein Channeling gemacht und geschaut, welche Heilweise für sie gut wäre. Und dann kam eben Wasserbehandlung als Antwort hervor, und ich habe ihr gesagt, sie möge das Bein kneipen und dabei mental denken vom Kopf her, dass das Bein bei jeder Behandlung kleiner, schmäler werde.
Smaller.
Yes, würde.
Was it a tumor on the spine?
No, no.
Leg.
It was related to the leg.
Foot.
Ja,
Leg.
sie rufte mich dann ungefähr 1,5 Monate später zurück und sagte, das Bein sei tatsächlich um die Hälfte zurückgegangen. Es ist tatsächlich so, wenn Menschen mit der Blockade sich ärgern, dann ist eine Umkehr, eine Schwingungsveränderung oder eine Heilung nicht möglich.
So Oswald was talking, let me translate. So Oswald was talking about this time. An elderly lady came to him, and she had a swollen leg. Really, she had water retention, swollen leg.
Edema.
Couldn't move. Right, she couldn't move, and the doctor said, "There's nothing we can do. Besides, take these many pills." And she said, "I've been having this for a long time, and the pills didn't do anything." So Oswald had a look at the leg and said, "Healing is not possible with you." And she just looked at him and said, "What do you mean healing is not possible with me?" Because she had, called Oswald and expected miracles, right?
Yeah.
And so he said, "No, it's not possible because you are scolding your leg. Scolding, the resonance you're giving to your leg, you are yelling at it. There is no chance this can heal when you yell at your leg."
Beautiful.
And she said, "Oh," because basically she was just repatterning the same thing again and again. And he said, "This is what you need to do. First of all, are you familiar with Kneipp? It's called water treatments. It's very popular actually also in the mountains and in Germany.
Oh, like Baden-Baden?
But I'm sure they do that too. Yes, water treatments.
Oh, yeah.
And he started...
Mineral baths. And...
Correct. And he said,
Am I familiar?
Oh, yes.
Tell you later.
Good stories I can feel.
Yes.
So he said, start with cold water. Make sure you just take the shower, put your leg on the cold water, and start the pumping effect of warm and cold and warm and cold. And then be pleasant to yourself and your leg. You must add it love. Otherwise, exactly, there is no healing possible. And he also said, imagine when you pour water over it, the cold water, that your leg is going to return back to its original size, how it ought to be. And so he said after about 1.5 months, about 1 month, he calls her again and said, you were right. The leg has become smaller and smaller and smaller. Edema is gone. I can move, not in pain. It's wonderful. So she realized how she had to turn the healing around. And she also realized, that she had that healing available to her already.
Yes.
It's just she had the wrong attitude towards her leg. Scolding it
Oh, I
versus
get
saying,
it.
thank you for showing me this.
And then
And
she
now,
said, and by the way,
Yeah.
Oswald, I love my leg.
yeah, exactly. That was basically the mantra. The mantra is adding love and cold water treatments.
Yeah, right. Well, hot, cold, hot, cold.
Exactly. But yeah, ultimately it was
That's a great
cold.
story.
cold
That's a
yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
Our world has become so polluted,
Yeah.
contaminated, both on the emotional level of give me this and give me that, with the whole, pathology of greed,
Sure.
which leads to extraction of Mother Earth's precious minerals, ancient dinosaur bones called fossil fuel,
Yes.
without mistake, right? And then the billowing of smoke into the air.
Yeah.
So we have vast air pollution and
Right.
vast water pollution and vast soil pollution, and everything unfortunately surrounds money
Yes.
and power
Yeah.
in the most unevolved way.
Yeah.
We know this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
As a result, we have a very polluted body. Even when people are taking really good care of themselves,
Yeah.
they're relatively less affected. But nobody goes unscathed in today's world,
Yeah.
pretty much,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in the urban environments. So as a result, cancer has become, the soup du jour,
Yeah.
the
Fortunately.
disease of the day. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and there are lots of explanations for that.
Yeah.
But has Oswald been helpful with people who have had cancer, tumors,
Yeah.
malignancies, etc.?
Yeah. He actually has a brilliant story related to that, but let me translate for him quickly the question.
Please.
Er sagt,
Bitte schön.
es gibt im Moment viel Umweltverschmutzung im Wasser und in der Erde natürlich auch. Und er hat gesagt, wir wollten einfach die Erde fangen und die Luft ist verschmutzt. Und warte mal, aber er hat gesagt, und deshalb gibt es so viel mehr Krebs auf der Welt. Und er hat gefragt, ob wirklich du auch eine Geschichte hast oder Heilung über Krebs, ob du etwas erzählen kannst.
Ja,
Kleiner.
ja.
Ja, exactly. Wahrscheinlich, wo der Krebs weniger war, ist weniger. Aber also das mit der Metastasen.
Zuerst antworte ich auf die Frage bezüglich der Umweltverschmutzung der Erde. Ich habe ein Channeling gemacht, wie wir Menschen mit der Erde umgehen könnten. Und beim Channeling kam heraus, wenn der Mensch der Erde gegenüber frech wird, wenn er sie ausbeutet, dann regeneriert die Erde erbarmungslos korrekt. Das heißt, sie holt sich den Mensch wieder zurück, entweder als Staub oder als Stein. Und daraus wissen wir, dass wir der Erde eigentlich nicht verloren gehen. Und daraus sollten wir lernen und erkennen, wir sollen gut sein zu der Erde, weil wir eben dadurch profitieren. Und zum Krebs, warum so viele Menschen Krebs haben. Ich habe eine Story. Ein Freund von mir, der war voll mit Metastasen. Und der Arzt sagt, die Heilung sei für die Medizin beendet. Ich mache seit längerer Zeit Channelings und ein geistiger Spirit steht neben mir und sagt, ich soll ihm helfen. Ja, wie denn? Ich soll ihm seine Metastasen mit 500 Grad minus eingefrieren. Und ich konnte mir nicht vorstellen, was 500 Grad minus bedeutet. Der geistige Helfer sagt zu mir, ich möge mich in ein Eisgrab legen, um diese Schwingung zu erfahren. Ich habe mich in ein Eisgrab gelegt, 100 Meter tief, und habe mich erfrieren lassen. Und in dem Moment habe ich einen Klang gehört, einen Ton. Und dieser Ton war genau gleich wie ein Schwarm Bienen, der wo summt. Und der Klang so. Bzzz. Und dann hat der geistige Helfer gesagt, ich möge mit dieser Erinnerung dieses Klanges auf die Stelle gehen, wo er betroffen sei. Dann habe ich gesehen, dass diese Irritation in der Zelle stehen geblieben ist, aber nicht weg war. Fakt war, der eine hat 8 Jahre überlebt. Wie auch immer. Also muss doch eine energetische Kraft dahinter sein, wenn wir die richtige Frequenz haben und sie dem Bedürftigen zu der Stelle bringen, wo er sie braucht, damit sein inneres Happiness oder der innere Friede entstehen kann. Da kann man die kranke Zelle umdrehen.
Mhm. So, yeah, so he was mentioning actually 2 parts. Part number 1, he says related to the earth, because he really wants to talk a bit about the earth too. He said he had a channeling for the earth, and the spirit guides told him that the earth mentioned, if we keep on treating the earth like this, the earth is going to react without mercy, and we're going to return to earth either in dust or stone, he said. And we are always going to be connected and still be a part of the earth, but you know, in that kind, not as humans, no, exactly, but there's the rock. There's a literally, he said, rock or dust or ash, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, and he said, and then he was
You
talking.
have told me that too.
So we have confirmation in that case. Time to change things. Yeah. So then he also said, well, he had a friend who had cancer, really terrible cancer, and the doctor had said, you have 2 weeks to live. So he came to see Oswald, and Oswald did a channeling for his friend.
By the way, I think that should be illegal for doctors to say things like
To give a time frame. Yes, absolutely.
I think they should have their licenses yanked from them 'cause
quickly.
it means they don't understand.
Right.
They're purely Newtonian, and even in that context, they're misguided.
Right. But you know, the good news was that his friend wasn't, in a way, and still saw Oswald no matter what, right? So he did see Oswald. So Oswald did a channeling, and his spirit guide said to him, go and allow yourself to literally freeze to minus 500 degrees Celsius. And Oswald said, I cannot imagine minus 500 Celsius. This is not even possible. So something that, you know, the mind wouldn't understand. And he said, how is that possible? And the spirit guide said to him, go into the glaciers. Put yourself into the glaciers and lie within the glaciers, in sort of the graves of the glaciers. So Oswald did that and went to the glaciers and allowed himself to freeze, in a way to freeze to a state almost like freezing to death.
For Oswald to do that?
For Oswald to do that first. So he had to have the experience so he could help his friend. So when he was in that state of being with minus 500,
glaciers in the
they're glaciers, they're Tyrolean Alps glaciers. But he said, really? But here's the better. He said,
you didn't have to go to the north.
No. But he also said, you know, go there with your mind, because as you know, you can travel, right? So he didn't have to take his physical body, but go there. Because I double checked with him too, and I said, do you actually go lay there? Because I've been there, and this is not comfortable. So anyway, but he would say. And he said, so he went there and allowed himself to be in that state of freezing. And he said, and suddenly a sound appeared. And the sound... Yeah, exactly. The sound was the sound of bees. And he said, the sound that minus 500 degrees Celsius creates would be the equivalent of the sound of bees. And this sound will help your friend. So he said, go to your friend and make that sound. And he had to have the correct pitch, the perfect pitch for this cancer, you know, to stop or heal. And then what happened was...
Right tone.
Correct.
I.e. the right vibration.
Correct. He said it was all about frequency, all about resonance and frequency, right? And so he went to see his friend and made that sound and said, you too, please make the sound, and continued working with the sound.
In his body.
Correct. And... so the cancer didn't disappear, but it stopped. It stopped. And his friend went on living for 8 more years. Because there was no more growth. It stopped, there was no more growth. And so he had 8 more years to live. You know, it was really amazing, wonderful story. Yeah.
Story.
Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of the work, it sounds, that Oswald is doing is educational, actually. So it sounds to me that on one hand you're getting the download, to use a modern computerized
Sure.
lingo,
Yes.
lexicon,
Right.
from the spirit guides who are giving directions to you to then give to yourself, of course, but also to others.
Yeah.
Like the glaciers and the bees and the sound,
Sure.
or the loving the leg, things of this sort. Distinct from, and I don't mean exclusive of touching, of direct contact with someone where you're conducting, downloading the vibrations, the frequencies needed for creating a resonance to shift an illness. Could you?
Ja. Also er sieht also, dass du den auch gern Blut ausbildest, weil er weißt du durch Channeling und du siehst auch die Aura, aber gibst du denn auch den Leuten etwas weiter und was wie so, als dass du die Leute ausbildest, dass sie sich heilen können und dass sie sich auch selber heilen können?
Ja, ich zeige Ihnen die Energie, wo Sie zur Verfügung haben. Wenn der Mensch lernt, die Energie, wo er in der inneren Aura zur Verfügung hat, lernt bei sich selber in sich strömen lassen, entsteht die Selbstheilungskraft. Und dadurch kommt eine Disharmonie wieder in die Balance. Das heißt, wenn du deinen Körper mit dieser Energie energetisierst, dann bleiben dir viele Unannehmlichkeiten erspart. Dadurch hat der Mensch mehr Resistenz gegen äußere negative Einflüsse. Zum Beispiel, wenn deine Energie im Fluss ist, Mobbing, Depression, Burnout nicht möglich. Dadurch fördert man eben dieses Happiness in sich selber. Und die Kunst ist es, aber in dieser Happiness oder in diesem inneren Frieden zu bleiben. Man muss lernen, in der Balance zu bleiben, auch wenn die Augen was anderes sehen würden, zum Beispiel Negatives. Man muss trennen lernen, dass eine negative fremde Energie mit einer guten Energie nichts zu tun hat.
Right.
That sounds good.
Yes, and it is, because I've been observing it, and I have to say it's incredible what I was allowed to
A lot
serve.
of you understand German. That's all I can say. And if you do, teach me.
There we go.
No, please.
Yes. So he said, yes, he also teaches seminars, but also teaches people that he sees right away to be in touch. And it's actually more than in touch, and I want to just get into that a little bit,
Yeah.
with their own healing abilities. So, and the inner healing. And that's what it's all about, empowering people. So what he does is he shows people he shows people and reminds people. It's more like a reminder. He always says he is an inspirational coach and reminds people of their own healing energy. So what he does is he literally starts their motor. The engine starts, and the people have then a tangible experience, a feeling, a sensing again of that energy that's within them. And he says, all you have to do is first get in touch with that energy again, learn how to let it flow through your entire body, especially where your illness is. And once you let it learn to flow through your entire body, sort of from within, he always says, you create a flower from within.
Heilstrom.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly what it is.
Healing stream.
Thank you. Yes, and you can heal yourself that way.
Absolutely.
And he says the other good news is that this energy is always available to you. He said it's your best friend and it's limitless. You always have access to it. And he says, and once you allow it to stream through your body, your mental state changes. Meaning, he says, depression leaves, sadness leaves. And he also says bullying is impossible because the outside does not affect you as such anymore. He says negative situations that you might have found yourself in the past are not even part of you anymore.
There isn't an equivalence between the resonance outside and that inside. It's like homeopathy, if you think about it.
Right.
It's not matching.
Right.
It's no longer, it cannot happen.
Right. You cannot connect. Exactly.
connect.
Right. Right.
So I get it.
Right.
I
And
appreciate
also,
this very much.
yeah, and also he says you don't take it in. You don't make that yours anymore too.
Right,
And that's how he says you stay in your happiness and literally in your inner peace.
Yes.
But all you have to do is remember this energy. He says, because first he shows people an experience, and he says, then you only have to have a memory of this energy, and automatically it flows through your body again. It's ignited in your body, and healing can happen just by sheer memory of being in that state.
Absolutely.
And then he said, and your homework is to always stay in that state as well.
Practice, and you will
Practice,
get to
practice.
Carnegie Hall.
Exactly. Practice, practice, practice. Indeed. That's the word I heard a lot, from him.
No, this is good. And I
Yeah,
very much
yeah.
appreciate it because, you know, there are healers. I see so many in what I do, and, you know, and some incredible, wonderful people like yourself. And I also see other healers who are much more interested in bringing attention to themselves.
Oh, yeah.
You understand?
Yes, I do. I do.
And thankfully, this is fewer than more, but it's I am the healer,
oh,
therefore come
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
distinct
actually-
from let me remind you, like you're saying, empower you, because the reality is that this, what we call Heilstrom,
Yes.
is just the nature of the universe itself. It's
absolutely.
the intelligence
Yes.
that created everything in the first place.
Yes.
And all we're doing here is consciously,
Right.
because we have consciousness, which is
Right.
a miracle in itself,
Right.
consciously connecting to that feeling, that sensation,
Yes.
that vibration, and inviting it, because we can do that.
Right,
We
right.
can invite it. We can intend for it to go to those obstructions, go to those darker areas and side of us, physically and emotionally,
Right.
and start to liberate and shift and awaken
Right. Yeah.
and make alive.
Yes.
Make alive.
Yes. I mean,
So-
Oswald calls it that. Oswald
That's
calls
why
it actually.
I'm appreciating
Yeah,
what you're saying
yeah.
very much.
Well, two things about this quickly, because I had observed this now. I mean, Oswald always says to people, I only come into your life once to remind you of this energy and to have an experience of this energy. And he says, because it's always with you, you always have access to it.
Yeah.
And because it's limitless. He actually calls it the source also, or the well, the well of light, really.
Of course.
But then in the seminars, he gets even into more specifics, which, it's
Well, as
very
you go
amazing.
deeper
So.
in the well,
Correct.
you end up having more fun.
Right, exactly. But honestly, I had just the honor to observe this and see how people would leave him empowered. I saw this woman come in and I thought, oh God, she's going suicidal, really, But you should have seen how she walked out of that place. I think I was crying even as an Austrian, which there's not a lot of crying. I'm just saying to you. Yeah,
good.
it's true. It's, yeah.
Well, thank you. Dankeschön.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Bitteschön.
Thank you for having us.
Sprechen Sie Englisch?
A
Nein?
little bit.
A little bit, a bisschen.
You are welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you so much
No,
for
really,
having us.
Thank you so much, Oswald, for your good work in the world. You're helping to really contribute to creating a better world, which is why
thank you.
we wanted to have these.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
Elsa, thank you for your great
Oh,
services. of
my pleasure.
translation and
Really, thank you for having
real
us.
sensitivity.
Great honor. Thank you.
So, those of you who watch with regularity know that we talk about this kind of thing with regularity. And you can understand what Oswald is saying through Elka and directly for those of you who speak German, that it's within a field that is as ancient as creation itself. And various practices have come to us mainly from shamanic traditions that are found all over the world, from China and Tibet and Siberia and Europe and South America and Africa. Everywhere have these traditions, medicine men and women, shamanic teachings, and it all has to do with our connection to ourselves and to the universe. Of course, the intermediary is nature. So when we do such things as meditation, Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong, different yogic practices, different shaking meditation practices, which go all the way back to Africa and the Australian Aborigines, tens of thousands of years old, we always go back to this idea of connecting to life force, the life force itself, to animate us and to bring us back to our, as said, our original selves. So what Oswald is doing, is part of that tradition, and what's been in his family is precious because it's like the realization of what it is to be human in a more fulfilled fashion. In other words, he's reminding us powerfully that this is our human potential. And you could say this is even our human destiny, to be like this, to activate this. And sadly, in our lives, we are kind of shrunken down to not believe these things. These are considered mysterious and mystical and out of reach. But through Oswald's simple directives, we see that all we have to do is be quiet for a moment. And we can get in touch with the sensation inside ourselves. And that is what leads to healing. It's accompanied by, it's probably not just informed by, but it probably has the essence of love itself. And some say that that's actually the building block of the entire universe. So you see, and I see, and we see that there are ways of really self-healing, but what it is harnessing the power of the universe itself, which is streaming through us all the time. And we don't want to interrupt it. So on that note, I want to just thank you all for joining me today for this wonderful, wonderful session with Oswald, who's here from Austria. He does offer lectures and webinars and seminars when he travels around. So get in touch. I'll put his website and his contact information on so you can get in touch. My name, of course, as you know, is Mitchell J. Rabin, and I love when you write to me at mjr@abetterworld.net, mjr@abetterworld.net. Let me know your thoughts and feelings and comments about the shows. Always love hearing from you. And visit us at our website at www.abetterworld.tv. I look forward to seeing you all next week.